Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into something I think a lot of us grapple with.
Yeah.
The messy, often unglamorous reality of career confusion.
Absolutely. And our source material today is, well, it's this remarkably honest and reflective account. It's from an author who spent a good decade navigating, continuous professional setbacks.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the journey. 6 jobs, 7 years just sort of wandering before finally finding success. And importantly, success as an ordinary person.
That's the key thing, isn't it? This isn't one of those success manuals written by some kind of prodigy. The author's voice is incredibly self-aware. They're really quick to admit their own faults. They use phrases like, I'm clumsy, slow to act, naturally timid, things like that.
Right.
But that self-awareness, that honesty is exactly what makes their eventual success feel so powerful and, frankly, so relevant to you, the listener.
So the core message isn't some quick fix.
Not at all. It's that real personal growth, for most of us anyway, is a long, often chaotic, and sometimes pretty painful process.
It really sets the stakes from the get-go. The struggle for professional identity, as they frame it, it's fundamentally a test of endurance.
Exactly. And they pose this philosophical question right at the start, which kind of anchors this whole deep dive.
What was that again?
It asks, all stories have an ending. Before the ending arrives, can you endure the waiting, hold on to your original aspiration, and wait for the light around the corner?
Enduring patience.
That's it. That ability to just not quit when things feel chaotic or uncertain, that's the resilience we really need to unpack here.
Okay, let's do that. Let's unpack this resilience. The author dives straight into a critique of young workers entering the workforce.
Yeah, arguing that many start out with a pretty major competitive disadvantage.
Why is that?
Well, it's either because they're overly self-assured, thinking they know it all already.
Or the opposite extreme.
Or the opposite, yeah. Treating themselves like a complete blank slate, just kind of waiting for the world to tell them who they are or what to do.
And the problem with being a blank slate?
The consequence is you lack that crucial social practice, that early testing that's just so necessary for the modern workplace. You're immediately behind compared to those who've aggressively put themselves out there, who've been seen, so to speak.
It's not about innate talent, then?
No, not according to this author. It's much more about forward preparation, planning ahead.
And they have a really pointed example that highlights this, the power of taking action early.
Oh, yeah, the story of the young woman. She started interning way back in her sophomore year of college.
That is early.
It really is. And the result, by the time she graduated, she had already locked down a substantial high-paying job, plus she'd saved the equivalent of like $15,000.
Wow.
That, the author says, demonstrates the power of forward awareness, planning awareness, and crisis awareness. She basically internalized what the real world required years before her peers even started thinking about it.
Okay, so that's the proactive side. But what about the common mistakes people make after they start? I think the test run principle you mentioned is maybe the most important lesson here.
I agree. The author sees this common and pretty destructive mistake people make. Jumping into a really challenging job, let's say high-pressure sales,
Right.
with the idea that they need to challenge a weakness. Like, if you're bad at communication, you decide to use the company's demanding environment as your own personal high-stakes therapy session.
Which sounds brave? Maybe. But the author advises against it.
Strongly advises against using company resources as your personal trial run. The cost of failure is just too high.
So what's the alternative?
If you think you might want to try sales, for instance, test the waters first, somewhere low stakes. Set up a stall at a weekend market, maybe organize group purchases in your dorm, something small.
But hang on, isn't learning on the job how most people actually learn things? Why is trying it out in the actual role so damaging?
Well, the author's point is, if you can't even initiate that basic low-stakes practice, if you fail trying to sell stuff from a dorm stall, then walking into a high-pressure corporate sales job means you're starting from a massive deficit. You end up wasting really precious time and probably damaging your reputation. By the time you inevitably fail, you haven't just lost that one job. You might have set your whole career timeline back months, maybe even years.
All because you skipped the essential cheat practice rounds.
Exactly. It's about efficiency of effort, really.
And speaking of setbacks and efficiency, the author also discusses this pitfall of just surviving,
Yeah, that idea of the ambitious but struggling urban worker the North Drifter type he mentions, maybe living in a tiny basement room for $70 a month, dreaming of a $1,500 bonus?
Right, that kind of bare minimum survival.
The danger is that it often just degenerates into adapting to hardship and muddling through.
You get used to the struggle.
Precisely. And if the struggle becomes your new normal, you stop actively pushing for growth. You basically replace real ambition with just endurance.
So what's the strategic move then?
The key advice here is so critical. Set a deadline for every single pursuit. Doesn't matter if you're chasing a big dream or just trying to endure a tough situation. Put a fixed time limit on it.
Why the deadline?
Because that deadline maintains urgency. It keeps you focused. And crucially, it stops you from just settling into a kind of comfortable misery.
That need for focus.
Yeah.
Wow. That was exactly what the author himself seemed to lack for, 7 years?
Yeah, part 2 of his account really tracks that wandering period. It was 6 different jobs across 3 completely different industries.
Yeah.
Designer, editor, advertiser.
Plus all the hobbies on the side.
Right. Drawing, acting, writing, just constantly sampling everything, but never really consolidating, never getting deep expertise in any one thing.
And that phase, I mean, it sounds so relatable, especially today with so many options and interests vying for our attention. The learner persona struggling with too many interests.
Totally relatable, but the emotional turning point for the author, the thing that really shook him, was genuinely painful. It was a college reunion. His former classmates were all talking about buying houses, getting these high salaries. And he was there with his low salary, feeling this complete lack of direction. He walked away just consumed by this profound sense of shame and inferiority.
That sounds rough. But necessary, maybe?
It forced a reckoning, absolutely. That public embarrassment made him confront what was really going on.
And what was the central realization he had about his professional identity from that?
It was the blunt realization that he was not, and this is his word, a genius. He was, quote, a clumsy, common person.
Oh, but honest.
Very honest. And what that meant for him was, okay, having lots of interests is fine, but real professional value, what he calls getting your label, requires recognizing your limitations. Meaning you have to focus your limited resources, your time, your energy on developing a single, viable, long-term strength. You simply can't be truly good at everything if you're not a genius.
So how did he actually execute that focus? It sounds like it would require some tough choices.
It sounds methodical and, yeah, pretty brutal. He systematically abandoned almost all of those scattered hobbies, just dropped them.
To concentrate on what?
Solely on writing and interviewing. That became his focus. And his strategy for achieving mastery in that area is, well, it's staggering.
Oh, so?
He describes preparing for a single interview by consuming something like 10 hours of video content and reading 70,000 words of relevant text just for one interview.
Oh, that's dedication.
That is dedicated, almost overwhelming resource allocation. And that's how you move, according to him, from just sampling a skill to actually possessing a professional label. You go deep.
That sustained, deep effort. That's the real difference between being just a hobbyist and becoming an expert, isn't it?
It seems to be. But okay, once he had that expertise, the battlefield kind of shifted, right? It wasn't just about self-improvement anymore. It became about workplace politics.
Ah, yes. The next layer of challenge.
Exactly. The expertise got him through the door, but achieving external success, navigating the professional world, that required a completely different kind of resilience, a more strategic kind. Which brings us neatly into part 3.
Right, navigating the workplace strategically. Let's look at how he handled things like, say, hyper-emotional superiors or general workplace conflict. He talks about a key moment, doesn't he, during a confrontation?
Yeah, a really vivid moment where a manager was shouting at him. And in that moment, he had this incredible clarity.
What was the insight?
The realization was simple but profound. Emotional behavior is a fatal flaw.
In the workplace.
Yes. If a manager has to resort to shouting or anger or aggression, it instantly exposes their lack of actual competence. It shows they're relying on their position, their hierarchy, their power, not on skill or reason.
So the loud manager isn't the scary one.
According to this author, no. You should be much more concerned about the manager who is silent, calculating, and strategic, not the one who's making a big emotional scene.
Okay, that insight leads us directly to probably the most controversial, but maybe the most interesting strategic point he makes. It's about handling stolen credit.
Ah, yes. This one definitely raised his eyebrows.
He says his first high-salary boss consistently stole his work, took credit for his ideas, but his mindset wasn't anger or resentment. It was, well, you tell it.
His mindset, incredibly, was being able to have my credit taken by you is my honor.
Wait a minute. That sounds like professional suicide. If you just let your boss steal your work, aren't you basically signaling weakness? Aren't you showing you lack ambition?
See, that's the conventional reaction, right? The emotional reaction. But the author's strategy here is all about trading that short-term ego boost, that immediate recognition for long-term leverage.
How does that work? Explain the leverage part.
Okay, if you step back and look at it strategically, this perspective actually achieves three critical things. First, the fact the boss wants to steal the credit. It confirms your project is excellent. Bosses don't claim bad work.
Okay, point taken. What's second?
Second, the boss is now personally invested in your success because their claimed success depends entirely on your continued good work, on your output. You've made yourself indispensable to their ego, essentially.
Okay,
Yeah.
but what's the third objective? Because the boss still got the glory, maybe the promotion, using your idea.
The third objective is visibility and, crucially, experience. While the boss is busy taking bows internally, feeding their ego, the author argues that you are the one gaining the critical hands-on experience. You're interacting with the client, executing the project, learning the ropes.
So you get the real skills.
You get the skills, the client connections, the practical knowledge. You're investing in your future leverage, building real capability, while the boss is just enjoying a temporary ego trip.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant, if maybe painful in the moment, long-term strategy. Using your competence as leverage, even without immediate applause.
It is. Wow. That's a masterclass in separating professional outcomes from emotional reactions.
Yeah.
It feels like it connects directly to the final piece of strategic advice he offers, the proactive defense.
Right. The core survival strategy boils down to this. Being useful is key.
And he uses an anecdote here, too, doesn't he?
Yeah, the story of the network administrator. This person was in a department considered peripheral, maybe non-essential. Kind of on the edge.
Okay.
And then this massive, complicated, and frankly undesirable office renovation project came up. Something way outside his normal technical job description.
And what did he do? Avoid it like everyone else?
No, he actively sought it out. He volunteered, took it on.
Why? By taking on that difficult, non-technical project, what was he really achieving?
He was proving he was indispensable, multifunctional. He deliberately moved himself closer to the core operations of the company, demonstrating value far beyond his official title.
Making himself visible and essential in a new way.
Exactly. So when the inevitable departmental restructuring happened, when eliminations were being made, he survived.
While others didn't.
While those who just stuck rigidly to their initial roles, their narrow job descriptions, were let go. He didn't just survive, he ended up becoming the office director. All because he proactively made himself useful in unexpected ways. You have to constantly prove your value, often outside your comfort zone. So, okay, let's look back at this whole decade-long journey. From deep confusion to, well, hard-won clarity. What does all this mean for you, the listener, trying to navigate your own path?
Well, it seems pretty clear success isn't just about luck, is it?
Definitely not. It's presented here as a series of really conscious, often difficult choices. A choice to endure when things are tough. A choice to test yourself early, like that intern example.
A choice to actually focus your finite energy and resources, not just dabble.
Yes, finding that label. And maybe most importantly, a choice to approach the whole workplace thing strategically, rather than purely emotionally, managing your reactions.
This account really does feel like a survivor's guide, but for, the rest of us, the people who aren't necessarily geniuses, but who are willing to put in the sustained effort.
Absolutely. And the author summed up that long road forward with a really powerful final thought. Something I think we should all try and internalize when the journey just feels overwhelming.
What was the quote?
They said, you only need to crawl up and take a small step forward and you haven't been defeated.
Just crawl up, take one small step.
That's it. The struggle itself, the crawling, that's the raw material for your eventual success story. It's not about avoiding the fall. It's about the getting back up.
So the final thought for you, the listener.
If you feel like you've maybe spent years sampling, trying different things, maybe feeling that sharp sting of shame or comparison like the author did at that reunion, the question to ask yourself today is probably, what single strength are you truly dedicating overwhelming resources to right now? What are you doing to finally earn your professional label?
And embrace the crawl.
Embrace that incremental crawl forward, because according to this author, it really is the only reliable path from feeling mediocre to achieving something excellent. It's built on surviving the struggle, not somehow magically avoiding it.